Andrew Bates. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to True Theater. Yeah, that's right. My name is David Levy. I am a founder of True Theater, and it is my honor to be your host this evening. We are also quite delighted to have returned finally to in-person performances in this beautiful building, Memorial Hall in downtown Cincinnati. Yeah, absolutely. The staff, the crew, even the volunteers here, everybody does a great job at making us feel welcome, making us feel like part of the family, and we just love working out of Memorial Hall. If this is your first time attending a True Theater show, I envy you for having a first experience with us tonight. We always say at True Theater that we build communities through the sharing of personal stories. The sharing of a story, it knocks down walls, it builds bridges. You're going to feel connections with our storytellers tonight. And of course, people who've been here before know all about that, and welcome back to you. Do we have any first-timers here tonight? I think I can see a bunch of hands. That's really great. Thank you, thank you. You're going to love it. I hope you enjoy it, and please come back again. Anybody watching from home a first-timer, just raise your hand. I can't hear you. I also can't see you, but you can see and hear us thanks to Norse Media, NKU student-run media organization that's sponsoring the equipment rental for tonight and making it possible to live stream right to your house. Thank you all for tuning in at home, and thank you all for coming here tonight. The theme, every show has a theme. We've been doing this for 12 years. This is our third show of our 12th season. Different theme every show. Tonight, the theme is prom. That's why I dressed up. Now, I don't know if I would wear this to a prom, but you should have seen what I put on originally. I thought, what would my mother say? I better put on a tie. But you know, when we started working on putting tonight's show together, one of the things we've been doing lately is partnering with other nonprofits to kind of help them get the word out about them, and maybe they help get the word out about us. And we came across this wonderful organization called Kenzie's Closet. You may have received an email with some information about it. Yes, yes, absolutely. They have been doing a wonderful job for a certain number of years, helping to clothe young, I'm going to invite Heather, boy, I had her last name down a second, Batdorf, out, thank you very much, out on the stage. She's their community engagement manager. Heather, will you come on out here and share a little information about Kenzie's Closet? This would be much better than me saying it. Heather, I'm so sorry.
Thanks. Hi, guys. Thank you for joining us. We were thrilled when we were asked to partner with True Theater. Just to tell you a little bit about Kenzie's Closet, we were founded in 2006 by Bryn Coletti, and to date we have dressed 5,300 girls that have a financial or personal need. So, thank you. We're pretty proud of that. This year we hit our 5,000th milestone, so we had a party and a good time with the girls. We aim to make each girl feel valued, heard, and pampered while they're in our boutique. It's a unique experience where they come into our boutique, they get a personal shopper, and they go around with a personal shopper and they find the dress of their dreams. They find shoes, accessories, and all the likings, and we even have seamstresses that give their time week after week. So today we finished our final shopping day. We had 12 shopping days this year, and we dressed over 300 girls. And although prom season is officially over at Kenzie's Closet, it is never truly over for us. We're always looking for donations. We're always looking for volunteers for next year. We have a big gala called Paint the City Pink. We'd love to have you all join us. It's usually in February. We have an Amazon wish list. I have my business cards in the back. Check out our website, kensiescloset.org. So we feel very honored to be here tonight, and we feel very honored to make a difference in the lives of over 5,000 girls in Cincinnati.
Thank you, Heather. And we are collecting donations if anybody brought such things tonight, but as she said, they accept donations year-round, including financial donations because they supplement the materials they get with new items too, because they don't always have enough to dress every girl, and they want to have enough. So financial donations are also welcome. So that's enough pre-show banter. I'll have some other information to share with you later. Let's get started. You know, at True Theater, we always say that everybody has a story to tell, and the only difference between strangers and friends is the sharing of that story. Tonight, you're going to make a bunch of new friends. The first one is a keynote speaker, a co-host of the Girls with Guts podcast, I'd like to check that out, and a multi-Emmy-winning morning news personality at WLWT. In her free time, she loves spending time with family and friends, hiking and exploring the city. She's on the board of advisors for the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, a position that she holds very dear because she was once a Make-A-Wish patient. Please welcome Alanna Martella.
5 hours of freedom. When most high schoolers think of those 4 words, they think freedom from parents, freedom to hang out with that crush of theirs that their parents forbid them to see, freedom to dance and to booze at the after party. But for me and my prom, those 4 words meant something else entirely. For me, those 5 hours of freedom meant freedom from caregivers, freedom from the IVs that hooked me up to provide the nutrition to keep me going, freedom from being the sick girl. You see, my senior year of high school was kind of a bummer. My intestines decided it'd be a great idea to twist around each other, which is a phenomenon called a volvulus. I actually died for several minutes, but that's a story for another time. As a result of said volvulus, I had 15 feet of my intestines removed, was given an ostomy bag, and couldn't eat or drink anything for several months, so received all of my nutrition via an IV in my chest. And from September through March, I spent my senior year of high school in a hospital room or at home with my parents and the occasional home care nurse. Now, sure, I got little tastes of freedom here and there. I would go to my neighbor's house and hang out with their family. My mom and I actually went on a couple of college visits at this time, and I was free from doing any homework, schoolwork whatsoever, which actually I would have much rather been healthy going to school and having that work to do, but you deal with the cards that you're dealt. Now, by the time that I made my way back to school in the spring, Seton High School on the west side of Cincinnati, woo, Seton Saints, yes, I was without an ostomy bag, thank goodness, and I could eat food again, thank goodness, again. But I was still wearing those I had to wear an IV backpack around the hallways because I wasn't able to consume enough to keep me going, so I still had the IV nutrition. And I carried that backpack around along with my regular backpack. And by the time that I made it back to school, every high school senior's favorite time of the year rolled around, prom season. And after missing so much of my senior year, I figured I should pack in as many proms as I could. So instead of going to one, I decided to go out with a bang and went to 3. Now, don't get it in your head that I was a little loosey-goosey of sorts. I was anything but that. In fact, by this point in my life, I was actually afraid to even hold hands with a guy, and truthfully, I didn't have a date to any of these proms. So, let me tell you about my prom experience, or shall I say, prom experiences, which were anything but traditional. Prom number 1. New Richmond High School with my best friend at the time, Caitlin. And I didn't know anybody other than her. And for someone who was pretty shy during the high school years, it made for quite the interesting situation. Now, maybe I wasn't shy per se, but I spent the majority of my high school years watering down my personality in order to be liked and accepted by others. And the only person that I never did that with, aside from my family, was Caitlin. So I don't know what came over me, but a little light bulb went off in my head and said, hey, these people don't know that timid version of you that you portray at Seton High School, so you can be whoever you want. And I decided to let loose. And I still had my IV backpack, so I was very jaundiced, and I was puffy in the face. I also was extremely distended from all of that abdominal trauma, so I wore a flowy dress to hide the fact that my stomach was so swollen. But I did get the okay from my doctor to unhook myself for the evening, 5 hours of freedom, and make my way to prom without the IV bag. Now, I was a little nervous, so I was afraid that people would judge me for the way that I looked. I was yellow, I was puffy, I was bloated, and I almost debated canceling and not going at all. But I'm so glad that I went. And we went to Nada before the prom, and as everybody was eating, I just sat there and sipped my water because, 1, I had a very restricted diet at the time, still do, and I couldn't eat anything at Nada. And 2, as a high schooler, you're not 21 yet, so therefore you can't have margaritas. So as I sat there and sipped my delicious and refreshing water, people started asking me a lot of questions, stemming from the obvious, why aren't you eating anything? So I shared my story. I shared what had happened. I shared how my healing journey was going, etc., etc., etc. And everybody was genuinely interested to learn more about my story and hear about my life, and it was a stark contrast to what I was used to at Seton High School. I felt like I belonged, and that pit that had grown in my stomach for fear of being the odd woman out started to dissipate, and I realized that this is a really great group of people. So we made our way to the prom, and as I mentioned, I went a little wild. I overshared, I told stupid jokes, I danced like a maniac, which I may or may not still do, but I had fun nonetheless. Now, I might have gone a little too hard physically because my abdominal scar, which was still healing, took even longer to heal. It was infected, so exerting myself that much prolonged the healing scenario. So, but was it worth it? You betcha. Prom number 2, Elder High School, the brother school to my high school, Seton. Now, I went to this prom living off the high of prom number 1, and boy, was it a letdown. I was really excited to go to this prom because I had never been to an elder dance before, and anyone who was anyone would go to these dances because they were basically West Side gold, and it was yet another excuse to be unleashed from the shackles that were my IVs. Yeah, I was still distended, so I wore another flowy dress. I was still puffy and I was still jaundiced, but I was pretty pumped to get a night away from my care team. That was my parents. And as it turns out, I don't think my date really wanted to go with me. I was more of a pity date than anything. How did I come to this conclusion, you ask? Well, for one, he didn't give me any of the details of the dance, and I had to learn it from another girl that was in the group, and I don't think he and I took any photos together the entire night. And to make an extremely long and painful prom experience short, I felt awkward the entire time. And the girls that were in the group were a year or two younger, so I didn't really know any of them. And when people say high schoolers are cliquey, yeah, that's absolutely true. But this was on a whole different level. So are any of you guys here familiar with the west side of Cincinnati? Need I say more? And I'd promised myself never to water my personality down again, and that's exactly what I did. So I shelled up for fear of being rejected, to the point that I actually called my parents to pick me up early because I wanted to relieve myself of that torture. But nonetheless, it was still exciting to have some freedom from those IVs. And prom number 3, my own Seton High School senior prom. 5 more hours of freedom. Now, as I learned from the previous 2 proms, going with a friend was incredible and going with a date sucked. So I opted to not bring a date and go with all of my friends who all decided to bring dates. So I guess you could say I went by myself, which actually turned out to be one of the greatest decisions of my high school career. Probably a little dramatic, but it was still a great decision nonetheless. Now, I was still distended at this point, so yeah, I wore another flowy dress to let my stomach let loose, but I was a little less puffy and less jaundiced by this time, and I actually got my hair and makeup done for this one, so I was oozing confidence, and I felt like a true princess for this dance. And we went to my friend Emily's house before the pre-prom gathering, so I guess you could call this a pre-prom. And my other friend Erin was there, and Emily, Erin, and I, we had been the best of friends since 1st grade, and we wanted to get photos together as one final hurrah. And to this day, one of those photos from that night is still one of my all-time favorite photos. Let's see if we have that up there. We don't have it behind me, but it should be. There we go. Okay, as you can see, my face is a little puffy. I do have a little yellowy tint, but I seem truly happy, and that's because by that point, I was radiant. And actually, aside, you can see me without my date, by myself with everybody with their dates up there. Pretty good stuff. Anyways, so we made our way to our friend Kayla's house, and everybody ate their pizza beforehand, except not for me, because, again, I had a restricted diet. So I ate a turkey sandwich with mayo, which was my favorite meal, and I ate it without shame. And fun fact, that still is my favorite meal. So shout out to all of my friends who deal with me eating turkey sandwiches with mayo now. And so we took some photos there, like that one that you just saw with everybody and then me there. And we made our way to Paul Brown Stadium for our final senior prom. And I was so excited to go to this dance. It was a masquerade theme, and I was just very excited to hang out with my friends, and everything was off to an amazing start. And there's no plot twist. There was an amazing middle and an amazing ending. So when I was dancing and got tired, I rested. I didn't overexert myself. I didn't go wild, and I also didn't shell up. See, I feel like by this point in my healing journey, I had realized I was at death's door. I had really gone through the ringer, and I learned that death can come at any moment and steal our future from our present. I realized how precious of a gift life truly is. And so, as we were dancing on our final prom, and I was resting, my principal came and sat with me, and we chatted about goals and dreams and plans, and it's a moment that I cherish to this day and will probably cherish forever. And as an analogy for everybody's favorite bedtime story of yesteryear, this prom wasn't too hot, it wasn't too cold, it was just right. It was the perfect balance of me trying too hard and me hiding in a shell. It was me being my true, authentic self to the core. And no, I may not have had the fairy tale senior year prom experience that a lot of people get to have. No, I didn't dance the night away with my Prince Charming, but I did come back to myself. Thank you.
One more time for Elena. I only went to one prom, and that's the end of that story. You can often find our next storyteller starting impromptu dance parties, particularly if you happen to be in her kitchen. She enjoys narrative and uses it in her work with the senior population and also with her family. She enjoys weaving a tale through the use of improv and works with Improv Cincinnati and Remember to Laugh. But tonight, she's a solo act. Please welcome Emily Elma.
My son is 24 years old, and when he was 18 and was contemplating not going to his own senior prom because he really wasn't very interested, I smiled and nodded politely, but internally my voice was screaming, "Of course you're not interested in proms. Proms suck!" If it sounds like I have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder on the matter, it's because I do. See, my own first impression of prom was not that great. It wasn't what I thought that it was going to be. So at the ripe old age of 17, and I was a junior in high school, prom really wasn't on my horizon at that time. You know, I wasn't opposed to it. I just thought I'll just go when I'm a senior. I went to high school at Chaminade Julian in Dayton, Ohio. It is a Catholic high school. My best friend is Ellen, or was Ellen, and we had been friends since we were in grade school. I had always looked up to Ellen. She was creative. She was well-liked, and she had the making of a badass from a very young age. Ellen and I, we were just the best of friends, and while I primarily stayed the same in high school, Ellen really kind of came into her own, especially when she started attending a new high school her senior year. She started smoking cigarettes and wearing black and shopping at thrift stores. She was just the coolest. And she also started to hang out with boys. So I happily would tag along with her with this new group of friends, and I was able to meet boys that I would not have normally been exposed to, public school boys. Chris Sherman was one of those boys, and we quickly rose the ranks of being Ellen's preferred partners in crime from opposite sides of town. We discovered that we both worked at the Dayton Public Library at different branches, and we would send each other clever repartee through the interlibrary loan tube system. Chris was a much older man. He was a senior. He was mature and brooding and so handsome. And he would make me mixtapes. And he had a fake radio station that he recorded on cassette. Chris's signature was a jean jacket. And on this jean jacket, he had band buttons of bands I'd never heard of, like the Sex Pistols and Dead Kennedys. Chris and I were friends for a very long time, which actually equated to about 3 to 4 months in high school years. So, needless to say, the innocent flirting turned to dating, much to Ellen's chagrin. She warned us. She didn't want something to end badly between two people that she loved. Ellen is usually right. As you can imagine, we did not heed Ellen's warning. We entered into a romantic relationship. And Ellen at the time was dating somebody named Eric. Eric was dark and mysterious, and he spelled his name with a K. Ellen and Eric were the true OGs of goth. So the four of us would often hang out together, and prom season rolled around, so Ellen orchestrated a double prom date for the four of us, which was somewhat surprising because the majority of our time was spent bashing the mainstream and questioning authority. All angst aside, I was going to prom. My mom and I set up a time to go dress shopping in the booming metropolis of downtown Dayton. We settled on a long burgundy number that's top kind of reminded me of curtains or maybe a doily. It was decidedly not sexy, nor did it evoke a strong princess vibe. Alas, it was happening. I was gonna go to prom, despite it not being on my radar before this. I wanted prom magic, damn it. So, after much anticipation, primarily from me, prom night came, and the four of us arranged to meet at Chris's house. As you would expect, in true goth style, Ellen and Eric were dressed all in black, and they had a mean competition going on as to who was wearing the most black eyeliner. Chris, on the other hand, had rented a tuxedo, and the bow tie and the cummerbund were the exact same color as my Cabernet Sauvignon dress. We were coordinated, a true precursor of prom success. We took the obligatory prom photos, and I'm pretty sure Eric growled. As we exited to get into Eric's Astro van, Chris's father commented that we looked like that we were convicts coming out of a courtroom and trying to hide our identities. Silly Mr. Sherman. We dined at the Peerless Mill Inn, where the median age is 76 years old. We took some levity in the under-seasoned food and the overly seasoned clientele. Disclaimer here, I do work with the senior population. I get mostly positive reviews on Google. En route to the dance, I caught Ellen's eye, and she gave me a knowing wink, secretly conveying that this was just the beginning and our night was to conclude in endless bliss. Up to this point, the romantic portion of Chris and my relationship had been pretty PG, but tonight we would fast forward to R, or maybe PG-13. So as we arrive at the prom venue, the Astrovan passes the long line of limos, and we find parking. I kind of imagined that as we entered prom, maybe the Clash or the Ramones would have been playing if it was the movie version. So we get in there, and it's a sea of aqua prom dresses and Aquanet updos. It was just as I had imagined. I, at the time, had a short, dark pixie cut that I had spiked for the occasion, secretly hoping that my co-dates would approve. So I survey the land, and I decide I'm gonna head over to the prom photographer. I glance back, and Ellen, Eric, and Chris had gone for their first smoke break of the evening. It would seem that any time I wanted or I suggested that we engage in anything prom-related, they would call a huddle, and they would discuss something of great importance. I imagined and hoped that it was after prom. Not so. They were aloof, and they were disinterested, and that kind of became the name of the game. Don't show emotion, definitely don't show excitement. So I finally get the hang of this thing, and we're leaving. Wait! What about the dancing? What about the perfect song and the crafted lighting where Chris would finally realize that I was his one true high school love? We leave the dance and we head back to Chris's house where we dropped Ellen and Eric off, and they rode off in the sunset in the Astro van. Finally, this was it. Prom part due. We would be together. What was going to happen? Make out? Sex? My heart sunk and some butterflies died as we headed back to my neck of the woods. We said quick goodbyes, and Chris checked his watch, and that was it. Nobody was home when I got there, or at least nobody was awake. And back then, we didn't have social media and texting. I had to be alone in my Cabernet Sauvignon dress to contemplate my 17-year-old existence. And the worst part of it, my best friend was hanging out with her prom date, so we couldn't talk. I didn't see Chris after that, aside from an awkward senior or graduation party where we gave each other an awkward nod. Ellen and I did discuss the evening the next day, and after some prying, she admitted that Chris had left our prom date to go meet somebody else. It had taken exactly 20 minutes for him to drop me off in my neighborhood and drive to his. That was it. Hence, my former feeling that I expressed about prom. They suck after all. And also why I wasn't really very pushy about it when my son said that he was not planning to attend his prom. So that's it. That's my prom tragedy. However, in preparing for tonight's story, I reached out to Chris, and I didn't really have any expectation, since we really hadn't talked in 35 years, other than a thumbs up on a Facebook post every once in a while. So I requested intel, and 6 hours later, boom. Oh. Boom. Chris sent me a photo of the four of us in his living room on prom night. And we all looked pretty miserable. Chris, we were able to, but from that point on, we entered into a frenzied week-long conversation, and Chris told me things like how we had first met, about that first night, and it was in great detail. He used words like smitten. He also made statements like, felt like kissing my sister, which explained things in retrospect. He told me that if he were half the man that he is today, that he would have stayed and he wouldn't have tried to escape. And we could have talked it out. So I asked him if it was okay if I referred to him as a prom hole in this story. And he said that that was okay, but then he also said this. It actually feels good to make peace with it after all this time. I probably deserve a good metaphysical beating for it. When I look at expectations, I think that picture says a lot about what others expected prom to mean to us, rather than what we, or at least I, expected. That was what I needed to hear all this time. I had subconsciously been carrying around this bad feeling about prom and probably passed it along to my child. It was what I needed. So, like I said, it wasn't so lucky for my 24-year-old, but I have a 13-year-old son, and he will be attending his prom in a few short years, hopefully.
One more time for Emily. Hey folks, if you're out there tonight and you're wondering how come we've been around for 12 seasons, but you're only just hearing about us, well, you know, communication's a funny thing and I don't have a degree in sociology, but I can tell you that you can now start to follow us by signing up for our mailing list at truetheater.org or following us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. We're True Theater at all of those places. Remember, we spell theater the fancy way, ending in R-E. So, you know, keep in touch, follow us along, and hear about when we're looking for storytellers for our next shows, when we're doing special events off-season, and of course, when our next shows are coming up here at Memorial Hall. Also, if you are here for free tonight or enjoying the show for free from home, and you want to kind of like, you know, make a little donation to show your appreciation for this show that I'm sure you're enjoying at this point, you're still tuned in after all, you can do that easily by going to our website at truetheater.org and finding the donate button at the bottom of the page, or you could simply text the code TRUE12, T-R-U-E-1-2, no spaces, TRUE12, to the number 44321. You get a link back, you follow that, it's self-explanatory from there. Do it during intermission, do it after the show, do it tomorrow, but do it. Anyway, every little bit helps, and we really appreciate it. Back to the show. So our next storyteller grew up in Philadelphia, but has finally been living here for more than half of his life, and he says he likes it. I like it too. You can hear him spinning tunes. I'm going to say what I wrote. He always had more than one job going at one time. His main job has been mostly in radio, where he currently plays classic rock, along with providing his profound insights. Weekdays from 4 to 8 on 92.5 The Fox. He worked at WEBN for many years, playing the exact same music, only they didn't call it classic rock at the time. It was just rock. He also did a lot of song parodies for them, fake commercials, and has created some of the soundtracks for the WEBN fireworks. When he's not on the radio, his other career includes monthly columns for Cincinnati Magazine and making real commercials. Please welcome Jay Gilbert.
We need to start with the fact that my prom was in 1966. And that's going to be very important throughout this story because planet Earth in 1966 was a very different planet Earth than this one that we reside on now. and you'll see that there are many ways that it was very different. One thing, though, about prom was, I think, the same. The women you've heard talking about their dreams for the prom was the perfect dress and a magical night. A high school guy's dream of a prom, he really only has one dream. I won't keep you in suspense. Mine did not come true that night. One of the things that was different about planet Earth then was that the percentage of virgins in high school was much higher. And I was one of them. And when prom happened, you know, today they talk about helicopter parents. And they talk about, you know, when your kids are small, you schedule everything for them and they're never alone. And when I was a kid, it was the opposite. We came home from school, we played for hours outside, nobody cared. But when we became teenagers, that's when helicopter parenting kicked in. Because they knew about our dream. So my prom did not have a limo. I don't remember a single limo at my prom. It was not nearly as elaborate as proms are now. And my parents took me to my date's house. Her name was Sandy. And they took us to the prom. And they picked us up at the end of the prom. The band that played, it was not a big thing. It was some local band. They played Motown songs, Beatles songs. And we had fun. And there was an after party, but there were parents, there were teachers. It was chaperoned. They knew what was on our mind, and the dream did not come true. However, I graduated high school, obviously, soon after that. Went away to college. I grew up in Philadelphia. I went to Penn State. It's about a 4-hour drive. And my girlfriend, Sandy, who was my first serious girlfriend, despite the distance, we stayed together. And within the first few months, I planned basically a second prom for us. I was going to come home for a weekend, going to make a dinner reservation at a really nice restaurant. I was going to dress up nice. I never dress like this. But I was going to dress up real nice, and we had just great plans, and I thought, this is it. My dream, prom dream, will come true this night. So I drove home from Penn State on a Friday night, got home very late, slept late on Saturday, hadn't talked to her yet, and I had to give her a call. Now here's something else that was different about planet Earth back then. Phone calls from my home in Philadelphia to a distant suburb where she lived cost money. It was called a toll call, and they charged by the minute, and my parents did not like that. However, there was another alternative, which I would use from time to time when I wanted to talk to her. My father had an office. His business was not far from our house. It was a little place. It was on the second floor over a paint store, I think. And their business had what was called a Watts line, wide area telephone service, where they would pay a flat monthly fee, and you could call in about a 100-mile radius and talk as long as you want. So that's what I did, often. So this Saturday afternoon, I was gonna go there. I wanted to ask my father for the keys to his office. He was taking a nap. So I took his keys. I'd be home in half an hour. I go to his office. There's a door on the side of the building and a flight of stairs up to the second floor where his office is. And you open the door on the street with a key, you come inside, you lock it inside with a key, you go up the stairs to the office. And I called Sandy, and we talked for a while. We made our final arrangements. Yes. And I hung up the phone, walked out of the office, pulled the door shut, and realized I'd left the keys inside on the desk. I was now locked out of the office, but in the building. There was a flight of stairs about 3 feet wide, a wall on either side. That was it. Nothing else. I hadn't told anybody where I was going. This was 1966 planet Earth, no cell phones. Nobody knew where I was. Nobody was going to even wonder where I was for several hours. Okay, all right, don't panic. On the door downstairs facing the street, there's a little window, maybe the size of an 8 by 11 piece of paper. So I figure I'm just going to have to swallow my pride, wait for somebody to walk past and get their attention. And it was not a busy commercial street. It was basically a residential neighborhood. So I'm waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Finally, this old guy walks by, and I pound on the door. And I think he didn't even hear me at first. And he saw me, and he came over, and he's staring at me. I don't blame him. He said, "What?" And I said, "I'm locked in here." He said, "What?" I said, "I'm locked in here." And he said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" I said, "Can you make a phone call for me?" He said, "No." I said, "Why?" He said, "I'm hard of hearing. I can't hear on a telephone." Okay, don't panic. There's a gas station across the street. And on this planet Earth, that planet Earth, more than one person worked at a gas station at a time. So I said, "Go over to the gas station, get a guy, bring him over here." So he did. And he brought a guy over who was already laughing when he got there because the guy told him what was up. So he said, "What can I do?" I said, I gave him my home phone number. I said, "Call my father, tell him to come get me." Okay. He goes away, comes back. "I talked to your father." "Great. Is he coming?" "No." "Why not?" "You have his keys." Okay, don't panic. Does anybody else have the keys? Yes, his secretary has the keys. And she lives in a place that needs a Watts line to call. She lives in a distant suburb. But your father can't go there because you've got his car keys. I have an older brother. So I said, okay, we're going to try to find my older brother. No cell phones. So I have to call around trying to find my brother so that he can go to, if this was Norwood, she was in Westchester, and get the key and bring it to me. So I'm just sitting there for hours. And they finally found him, and he went there. I don't know exactly when because nobody called me to tell me. I just had to wait for somebody to show up. In the meantime, my girlfriend, I had forgotten to tell anybody to call her. Eventually, I see my brother walk up to the door. He comes up to the little window, dangling the keys. And he let me out. And I get home, and I call my girlfriend. So my prom consisted of no dinner, no show. We sat around, and she was not in a very good mood. So my prom dream did not come true that night either. There was a third prom, but I didn't go to it. Sandy went to a different school. There was another guy I knew at the school. He was a friend of mine. His girlfriend had just broken up with him. He had no date. So, and again, this was the world at the time. He called me to ask my permission to take her to the prom. And I said, okay. I don't know if anybody's dream came true that night or not. So, like Alanna, I had 3 proms, but they were kind of different. And there's just one more thing I'm going to leave you with, and that is just to show you how suddenly and how fast planet Earth changed just during that period. Here's a picture of me 5 years after that prom. I'm not sure I can blame my experience on that, but that's my prom. Thank you.
One more time for Jay. Folks, we're going to take about, depending on the length of the line at the bathrooms, 15-minute intermission, during which time there's a bar and popcorn. There's a great place to take selfies, a great picture booth out there, information about Kenzie's Closet, and of course, you're perfectly welcome to spend your time texting the code TRUE12 to 44321. We'll see you after the break. Once again for Aaron and Andrew Bates. You know, I really should say something about these guys. Andrew, on the keyboards here, is finishing his third year at CCM. Yeah. He's also involved at UC Improv, and he currently produces music for other artists and hopes to pursue that as a long-term career. And the other guy is his dad. Give me any other information? No. No, that's Aaron Bates. He's played for us many times before. We love him. He has a couple of singles you can get on iTunes, Golden Light, and the other one is Confluent Dreams on Ocean Boulevard. If you'd like to hear him noodle on the guitar a little bit more, you want to check him out at Batesy Guitar Stuff on Instagram. But he's also an artist of the painting variety. I have several of his pieces at my house. Some I've gotten, some have been given to me as gifts. I just love him. You'll love him too. You should check him out on Instagram and Etsy at Art by Batesy. So that's Aaron and Andrew Bates. Folks, if you're watching the people up here and thinking, hey, I'd like to do that someday, well, you can. In fact, we have an opportunity for you coming up 3 months from now. We do these shows 3 months apart. In July, on the 28th, the last Thursday of the month, we're bringing up True Hobby. The theme is hobbies. The crazier, the better. If you have a hobby story, or, this is also great because we get so many people by referrals, if you know somebody who does, send them our way. Go to our website, click the Share a Story link at the top of truetheater.org and let us hear from you. We'll be actively seeking stories the closer we get to the show, but we accept them all the time, and you'll hear back from us when you create a submission. So please think forward, and then at the next show, we'll be announcing season 13 with 4 new themes. So if True Hobby's not your deal, then we'll have another option, several other options for you coming right up. So keep an eye out for that. Hey, if you want to see more of True Theater, you don't have to necessarily wait 3 months to do it. In fact, you only have to wait 2 days, because we are joining the Cincinnati Storytelling Festival this year. This was going to be an annual thing until the second annual was, COVID. But they're getting it back together, and it's going to be outdoors, and they've got an indoor contingent if it rains, and it's tomorrow and Saturday. And tomorrow is going to be like ghost stories and other great tales. And on Saturday, we're taking the stage to kick off the headliners of the evening. Everything you want to learn about it is at cincystoryfest.com. Now, just so you know, when we take the stage on Saturday, it's going to be at 4:15 in the afternoon. So you'd be like, I have plans Saturday night. Yeah, at night, but we're on at 4:15. So come to that, and at the very least, and we're featuring 4 people who had graciously shared stories that during the time that we had to produce our shows online. They never got to experience a live audience like you great folks here. So we're giving them that opportunity, and they've graciously agreed to brush off their stories. We got 4 people from various shows during the 7 that we produced online coming back 4:15 on Saturday. So come check that out. We're also returning to the Cincinnati Fringe Festival this year. Yeah, that's always a great time, featuring artists who are involved in other shows, coming to tell stories about their life, kind of like as struggling artists. Such greats as Bill Lepp from West Virginia, a tall tale artist himself, and several locals and other greats as well. It's a one-night only thing towards the end of Fringe. I think it's the 16th, it's the last Thursday of Fringe. It's got to be great. You're going to want to check it out. And then, of course, we're back here July 28th for True Hobby. All right, and back to the show. Our next storyteller, this is going to be a two-hander, but I'm introducing the first hand right now. She has 22 years experience teaching school, high school, middle school, college. She's currently teaches anatomy, botany, zoology. I didn't learn zoology in high school, and honors biology to some, she says, of the most amazing kids she's ever met at Withrow University High School in the Cincinnati public school system. She is also a prom coordinator at Withrow. This is her second year doing it. Prom's coming up in a few short weeks, so she's in the midst of all the craziness of the planning right now. She's looking forward to seeing the kids all dressed up at prom as they celebrate their senior year. In addition to teaching, she also is the proud parent of Olivia, who is 17, and Michael, who is 14. And in the summer months, she and her family spend time hiking and camping with their 2 dogs. Please welcome Tina Gilliand.
So prom. The idea of prom brings back so many memories. I remember scouring the halls of the mall looking for the perfect dress. Friends and I would be munching on Aunt Annie pretzels as we talked about our night and planning it out in minute detail, all of the fun that we were going to have. And until I started teaching at Withrow University High School, I had assumed that was everyone's prom experience. But what I quickly learned, however, is that's unfortunately not what everyone gets to experience. So I work at an inner city school, and so some of my kids really struggle to afford the expense that prom brings. And so I oftentimes, as prom season rolls around, we've been in the midst of planning for weeks, I hear the kids saying, oh, that's so lame, that's ghetto, I'm not going to that. But what they're actually trying to tell me is they don't have the money to go to prom, that they just don't have the expenses that event requires. And so a couple years ago, there were a group of teachers in the hallway. We were chatting in between classes, and I was like, what can we do to help bring back the excitement and the joy that this season can be? And so one of the other teachers, Miss Mallory, she's my work mom, she kind of helps keep me on the straight and narrow, said, you know what, have you heard of Kenzie's Closet? And I'm like, no, what's that? She's like, this is a great organization, they're nonprofit, and they will supply our girls with dresses and accessories and everything that they need. I'm ecstatic. I cannot wait to get back to class and tell all of my girls about it. I've got prom figured out. We're all going. This is going to be fantastic. I'm waiting for girls to be lined up outside my classroom door for miles down the hallway. Right? So you can imagine my surprise and my frustration when that wasn't the case. I maybe had 2 or 3 girls that would come to me and say, hey, Miss G, can you take me to get my prom dress? Sure. And after some retrospection, what I realized is that there was a bit of pride involved. The girls didn't want to have to admit that they couldn't afford their prom dress. And to be honest, I think they were a little bit concerned that I was going to fit them into my 1990s prom dress. And so prom season rolls around this year, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try something all new this year. We're gonna break the mold. And so we do a prom fashion show for our seniors. So we call around, and vendors from vendors from different businesses around our building, we invite them in, and they dress our kids in their suits and their dresses so that they can advertise to our students what they have available, and our kids can see all of the new prom attire that's coming out for the season. And so I got my guys all figured out, and so I called Heather from Kenzie's Closet, and I was like, hey, would you be willing to dress my girls for prom, pretty please? And so Heather from Kenzie's Closet said, absolutely, what day do you want to come? And I'm like, rock on. And so my partner in crime, Miss Hope, and I planned a day. We took our 9 girls, and so here's where Miss Hope and I had to get a little bit creative. We didn't just take any 9 girls. We took the girls that are always talking. You know, the ones that no matter where you put them in the room, they're still going to be chatting. The ones that post every living thing on social media. So we took our class president, and we took the captain of the basketball team, and all of these girls that are constantly on social media. And so we take them down for their fitting, and we had so much fun watching these girls try on their prom dresses. It was like watching them play dress up. If those girls tried on one, they tried on 50 dresses, right? And it was a blast. And all of them found the perfect dress for them to wear for the fashion show. And so for them to go, they had one job, something that they've never heard me say. Ladies, I need you to get your phones out, and and I need you to post these pictures on every social media platform you have. And let me tell you, these ladies, they understood the assignment. These pictures went viral. Anyone who was everyone was talking about all of these dresses that the girls have been trying on. And so this little experiment worked out well, because this season, when I started asking who needs to go to Kenzie's Closet, who wants to go dress shopping with me, come see me after school, we'll make an appointment. So it worked, because as of 3 o'clock this afternoon, Kenzie's Closet has dressed 9 of my girls for for the fashion show, and I took my 27th girl today who left with a full prom outfit. Yes. And let me tell you, there were days I would pull up in my little Kia Soul, and it was like a clown car. We would open the doors, and the girls just kept falling out. But we had a ball. And so while I'm not going to lie, there have been days where the thought of, oh my gosh, Steph, I have to go to Kenzie's Closet one more day. But it has been so rewarding. So there are a couple of images that no matter where I go in my future endeavors, there's going to be a couple of images of these girls and the time that I got to spend with them. So I have one student named Rahabu. She's really quiet, super sweet kid. She immigrated here with her family from Eritrea in Africa. And to be honest, she didn't really want to go. I think she only agreed to go because she was sick of me nagging her. And she was going to appease me because I was threatening to deduct points from our next quiz if she didn't fill out the next form. So we get Rahabu off to Kenzie's Closet, and she's out doing her shopping. You know, my motto this year has been shop till you drop, ladies. And so she would go back, and she's looking for a dress. And so Rahabu's personal shopper, she pops her head out. She's like, are you ready to see Rahabu's dress? I'm like, absolutely. She's like, no, are you ready? Because I think she found the dress. I'm like, let's do it. I'm ready. And so Rahabu comes out, and she stands before us, and every head in that waiting room turned to her, and for a complete heartbeat, there was not a sound. And understand, she comes out in this satin and lace gown, and I was like, Rahabu, you are stunning. You are absolutely beautiful, honey. And she gets this smile, and her whole face lights up, and this kid is glowing from the inside out, because she was transformed from a kid who wasn't convinced that I was going to find her the dress to being just knowing she was standing there, queen of the night, beautiful. And so that experience alone has made all of my trips to Kenzie worth it. But the one image that I will never forget is one of my favorite kids. I teach seniors, and so sometimes I get kids multiple years in a row. So this kid and I have been together since her sophomore year. She's one of my faves. I love her like one of my own. And I took her to find her dress, and it was magnificent. But before I go any further, why don't we let Tierra tell you all about the day we found her dress. Miss Tierra.
Hold on, y'all, I gotta adjust my mic. Okay. I've always dreamed about going to prom ever since I was in the 8th grade. When I was in the 8th grade, I got to see one of my friend's cousins go to prom. Let me tell you, he looked fly. In other words, he looked good. His day's dress was beautiful too. I then went to a new school at Withrow University High School. I was a 9th grader. And one of my friends, who were a senior, wanted to ask a girl to go to prom. He showed me what he wrote on a piece of paper and pencil, notebook paper, I remind you. And he said, "Will you go to prom with me?" I looked at him like, "You ain't really gonna show her this, is you?" He said, "Yeah." I said, I got you. We had until lunch to make this poster. So we are making the poster, and it says, "Will you be my Tom to my Jerry to prom?" And the reason it said that is because she's tall like Tom and he's short like Jerry. They also fight like Tom and Jerry too. My 11th grade year, I almost got to go to prom, but he dumped me. It's okay though, I was only a junior. Fast forward, 12th grade year. I was, didn't want to wear the dress that I had before from the 11th grade where I got asked to prom because it was just ugly to me. It was kind of too poofy, too pink, and too fluffy. And it wasn't luxurious. So, my sense of style has also changed, as you can tell the way I describe the dress. My sense of style is kind of like a 90s/fairy type vibe, a little mix of Billie Eilish and Missy Elliott with a little spin to it. So, as you can tell, I didn't want to wear that dress. So, one day in the middle of the year, everybody's talking about how beautiful their prom dresses is going to be and how much it's costing. So, Miss G comes to me and says, "Hey, I got an opportunity at Kenzie's Closet." I say, sign me up. I didn't even care if I was going to get a hot pink dress. I was going to make it work. So we go to Kenzie's Closet, and we see this beautiful pink couch. And as I'm coming down the steps, I see all these dresses. I'm like, okay, we got this. So I go back, and I'm looking. Now, as you can see, I'm not a size 4. I'm more like a 0. So the dress didn't fit, but I see this dress, and it's gold, silver, and black sequins. And it also has fringe, well, not fringe, like fringe at the bottom. And it's very, it's cute. When I put on this dress, I feel like I was at the Grammys. I felt like Beyonce. Let me tell you, this dress. But yeah, prom to me is all about the perfect dress, the perfect prom proposal, and the perfect date for the perfect night. So I knew I needed a perfect dress, and that was a perfect dress to me. It's now 3 weeks before my prom. I don't have a perfect date or a proposal. I didn't get a proposal. But hey, it's okay. We're going to look fly in this dress. But yeah, I'm so excited to go to prom May 13th, and I can't wait.
One more time for Tina and Tierra. Now, Tierra didn't get like a thorough introduction. I want to tell you a little bit more about her. At school, she's an active member of her softball team. She's a leader in the Girls to Women program. She's currently writing a book that she hopes to have published by the end of next summer. And upon graduation, she plans to join the military and work in the infirmary in the U.S. Army. That's Tierra Wiliams. And I just have to add, too, that in the brief period of time that I've known Tina working on this story, not only does she do the things that I had said that she does as a teacher, but she also coaches the soccer team. She ran that fashion show that she was talking about. She's been driving these kids back and forth to Kinsey's Closet. It is unreal what she does as a teacher, and she and teachers like her deserve another round of applause. Absolutely. All right, we're up to our final storyteller of the evening, everybody. She's an Indigenous writer with an MFA in creative writing, nonfiction, from the University of California, Riverside, which you're about to hear a little bit more about, and a BA in creative writing from the University of Cincinnati. She's been published in such literary journals as Nashona, Bashemia, and also Waxing and Waning, among others. And you're going to love her. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kryie Eleison Owen.
People have a lot of assumptions about online school, most of which aren't true. One assumption is that online school is full of socially awkward nerds. In the 11th grade, I transferred from a Christian private school to one online based in Southern California. Laurel Springs was international with an asynchronous curriculum, meaning it drew in a lot of students who were child athletes and actors or children of film directors and parents with other fancy jobs. I would talk to my classmates online and they would ask what I did, and I'd be like, no, I'm none of those things. I just have severe social anxiety and mild agoraphobia. Growing up, it was hard to connect with people. I would overthink everything. Was I talking too loud? Was I breathing too much? Entire conversations would pass me by with me having heard nothing. It was easier to talk to people online. You didn't have to overanalyze body language or anticipate people's reactions. Instead, you could focus on what they were saying and what you were going to say back. When I started the online school, I decided to try my hand at making friends. So I joined the Creative Writing Club. One of the first sessions, we had to submit a poem, and I submitted one that's not good by my standards today, but it was vulnerable in the way that only a 17-year-old can be. It was about wanting to break the threshold of my bedroom and go outside, but being too scared to do it. Understandably, I was also too scared to read it as well. So one of my classmates, Stone, read it out loud for me. Later, they emailed me saying how much they appreciated the piece. We started emailing back and forth and eventually moved to Skype. I learned that Stone had a half-British accent inherited from their English parents who were a film director and fashion stylist, that they grew up in a glass house in the crest of the Malibu Hills. And despite this crazy life, they also didn't have that many friends. The more that we talked, what few friends they did have soon became my own. I met Melanie, a girl who had recently graduated and was going to school for pre-law, and Vlad, a boy our age who had the confidence and swagger of a child of a Romanian mafia boss. The four of us would Skype frequently, getting used to the lag and the distractions mid-conversation when one of our parents would knock on the door. It was nice to finally have friends, but despite this, I was still alone in a dark room, straining my eyes in the blue light, trying to find connection. Okay, I was a socially awkward nerd. Another assumption that people have about online school is that you miss out on fundamental high school experiences. Laurel Springs understood that online school could be very isolating, and so created avenues for students to get to know each other in person. Every year, they hosted graduation and prom all in a single day. This year, graduation was to be held in Ventura. I had never been to California before, and going across the country was a huge leap for a girl who struggled to go to the grocery store. But I wanted to meet my friends. So, that May, I packed a tiny vintage suitcase and flew to LA with my family. That night, after checking into the hotel, I took a walk on the beach. There had been an oil spill earlier, and black tar washed the shore. When I accidentally stepped through it, it oozed through my feet and glued to my arches. Even when the waves rolled over my feet, it wouldn't wash away. The next morning, I graduated. I met my friends, Stone and Vlad and Melanie. I walked between the girls whose last names also began with O, and I was shocked to see Kylie Jenner's name on the roster. No, she didn't attend, but if you don't believe me, scroll down her Instagram to July 2015. You'll see her holding a diploma, thanking Chris for a close to normal high school experience. After graduation had ended and prom grew near, all that excitement was replaced by anxiety. Nothing felt right. My hair was too flat, my shoes, my feet were still sticky. I couldn't go, not like this. By the time prom began, I was still sitting in a pile of clothes on the hotel bed, and Stone called me from the lobby asking where I was. My shoes, my feet, I couldn't tell them I wasn't coming. Just come for a bit, they said. There's someone I want you to meet. Though my fingers shook as I fastened my bow tie, I donned the rest of my prom outfit, a gray tuxedo and a top hat. Though I could feel my feet sticking to my shoes as I walked to prom, all I could hear was the sound of heels against tile. When I got to the lobby and saw Stone, I smiled. Though the feeling didn't dissipate, I felt more grounded, and we walked into prom together, into the banquet hall full of the classic cheesy balloons and music. Laurel Springs prom was full of students, regardless of whether or not they were juniors and seniors. There were middle schoolers and one or two elementary schoolers too. For us, it wasn't about ending our high school career, it was about finally being able to meet and connect with one another. We saw our friends, Melanie and Vlad, and there was another girl, one I hadn't seen before. She was older with bottle black hair and tattoos. This is Sam, Stone said, Vlad's date. Sam's from Akron. Kyrie's from Cincinnati. Sam smiled. It was a quiet, shy smile. Like mine, it was one that didn't quite match the confidence of her outfit. It was this small expression paired with a bold black dress. She said that she had never been to Cincinnati before, and I had never been to Akron, but we decided that the two were probably very similar. Beside us, kids danced to music that had been popular years ago, played by two middle-aged DJs in flat-billed caps. I made the joke that if we wanted to, we could probably ditch prom and go drink on the beach. Sam was 22. My parents knew I was a nerd, so they didn't give me curfew. We all laughed, though, knowing that it actually was just a joke. Yes, the decorations were cheesy. There were middle schoolers flinging themselves across the room, but this was as close to a normal high school experience that we would get, and none of us were ready to leave. After a while of trying to shout above the noise, Stone decided that we should all dance. So we made our way to the floor. Once we got there, Stone leaned in to whisper, "Sam's gonna take Vlad's virginity tonight." And we looked over to see Sam and Vlad awkwardly trying to match each other's rhythm. After a few songs came and went, I realized that our group of 5 had become 4. Looking through the crowd, I could see Sam standing in the corner of the room, clutching a cup of soda. And I recognized that look, so I left them to stand beside her. "How did you and Vlad meet?" I asked, to break the silence. "Online," she said. They had met on Reddit and had been talking for a year before finally deciding to meet. They decided that Vlad's graduation was the perfect time, so she saved up for months and flew out by herself to meet him. "Have you two been able to spend much time together?" I asked, and she shrugged. "His parents don't know about me, and they've been wanting to spend the weekend as a family." There was a beat, and then, "It's been nice, though. I've gotten to explore. I took myself out to lunch. I spent most of the afternoon on the beach." She looked down to show me her tar-covered boot, and I laughed, slipping off my heel to show her my own stained feet. As she talked, though, I was reminded of the time in the 9th grade at the private school. I had been the pity homecoming date to the football quarterback. We had taken the classic photos together, but when we got to prom, he vanished to hang out with his friends. He promised me a slow dance, but when the music slowed, my older sister found me standing among the couples. She took my hand and we started to slow dance, and she told me never wait for anyone. It was there standing with Sam now and seeing our friends dancing, and Vlad not even realizing the absence of Sam. I told her the same thing my sister told me. Never wait for someone who won't come. When prom ended, the lights came on and teachers hugged their students goodbye. Vlad pecked Sam on the cheek and said he would sneak back to her hotel room later. The rest of us started to say goodbye too, and Sam asked what I would be doing for the rest of the night. I started to say that I'd probably go to bed myself, but something gave me pause. "Would you like some company until Vlad comes?" I asked. She nodded, and we made our way up to her room, a solo suite with warm lamplight. "I wonder when Vlad will get here," she wondered as we sat on the bed. "Hopefully soon," I reassured her. To distract her, I asked her to tell me about herself. Although she wasn't an alum of the school, like many of us here, she had spent her whole life searching in wait of a connection. I started to think about how we were able to meet in such unlikely circumstances. 2 socially awkward nerds befriending each other at an online school prom. As she glanced at the clock, though, I realized that my mind had been wandering. And this time I actually wanted to try to stay in the moment. So before she could ask again where Vlad was, I asked her to tell me more. And she did. She told me her story, one that's too private to share today, and I told her mine. And as we sat together, I felt this new sense of belonging. The hours passed from midnight to 1 and 1 to 2, but after a while, we forgot to look at the clock. We forgot while we were waiting. Thank you.
One more time for Kryie. And folks, that's our show. Let's hear it again for all our storytellers tonight. It's Elena, Emily, Jay, Kyrie, Tina, and Tierra, Aaron and Andrew, Annette backstage, the crew here at Memorial Hall, Norse Media, the people who set up the balloon arch, Kenzie's Closet, all these people, and all of you. We always say it takes two people to tell a story, one to tell it and another to open their hearts and listen. And tonight, you listen. Thank you all very much. And whether we see you in 2 days at the Cincinnati Storytelling Festival, in June for the Cincinnati Fringe Festival, or back here on July 28th for True Hobby, until next we see you, be true.